Hi, my name's Urooj and I'm the owner and photographer of Urooj Photography in Frisco, Texas. I wanted to share with you the top 3 lenses I carry with me to pretty much every shoot. The very first one I'm going to share with you is the Canon 50mm 1.2. What I love about this lens is that it has the aperture opening abilities of 1.2, so you could really open up in low light conditions, but more importantly, this lens allows you to create that beautiful background blur. And it's a very versatile lens. The only thing is that because it's a fixed or prime lens, you really have to move yourself. There is no zooming in or zooming out. You have to physically move yourself closer to your subject or farther away from your subject. So you'll get a little more steps in on your step counter if you're into that sort of thing. So I really love this image for portraits, when I'm doing headshots or babies, birthday cake smashes where the subject is sort of sitting still. This lens is great for that. It's not so great for fast moving subjects in my opinion, and it's not so great when you're doing events, especially with low light situations. This lens kind of struggles to find focus, and that's been my experience anyway. So despite the fact that it is a beautiful image producer, it can be sometimes a little bit difficult to work with because of the fact that you can't zoom in and out, and the focusing can be a little bit off sometimes in fast-paced situations. But this lens right here, the 24-70 USM 2 with a 2.8. So there's a 4.0 and then there's a 2.8. This is a 2.8. This is the one I highly recommend. If you can save and get this one, you won't regret it, because the 2.8 aperture means this lens is actually still pretty good for low light situations, and in my experience that this has not let me down in events. It struggles to focus a little bit, but not nearly as much as the 50mm, so I can rely on this lens for event photography. It allows me to work in tight spaces, and it's the main lens I use for my studio portraits when I'm working with babies, newborns. So highly recommend this lens. With this, because it's a 24-70, you don't have to physically move yourself as much. You can, use the ring to zoom in and out, and it just makes life a little bit easier. And also with the 24-70, because it's a wider angle, you'll have an easier time taking larger group photos, and you can switch from portrait to landscape orientation and not have to move yourself too much. Which you will have to do with the 50 more often, and then also the 70-200. So moving on to my next lens, this is actually my favorite lens. If I could do every single session with this lens, I would. It's a little not quite as practical as a 24-70 for tighter spaces, and sometimes it's difficult to use this lens when I'm working with young children that are about 6 months to a year old, because when I'm using this lens, the minimum focusing distance, you kind of have to really be far away from your subject, and the 70mm means you kind of have to step far back from your subject to get them all into that frame. However, when you are able to shoot at 2.8 and you can zoom in and out and get beautiful background blur, this lens will really make your portraits pop. So this lens goes with me to every shoot. I love it for senior portraits. I love it for photographing children, just running around. It does focus pretty quickly, not as quickly as a 24-70, but it does a great job of creating beautiful images, the kind of bokeh, the background blur, the creamy, dreamy look. It really does a great job with that. So these are my top 3 lenses: the 24-70 2.8, the 50mm 1.2, and the 70-200 2.8 with image stabilization are my 3 favorite lenses. I hope that helps you in your decision making for buying your lens. I hope it gives you an idea of what I carry in my lens bag if you're a client, to help you understand my tools that I use to help photograph images for you. Let me know if you have any questions. Hope you have a great day. Thanks.